Colombia, a country known for its beautiful landscape and vibrant people, but what is it like to go and watch a football game there? Come with me as I revisit my experience of going to the Medellin Derby and reflecting on my time in the country. Make sure you let me know down below what you think. Would you like to go to Colombia to go and watch a game? If not, where's one stadium that you really want to go to? Let me know down below. Whilst this is going on, I'm going to be showing you some clips and some videos just from my own experience. And so I was in Colombia for 1 month back in August last year, and I went to 2 games. I was lucky to go to 2 games in Medellin, and the first one was kind of like a build-up of what to expect. You know, it was a game of Athletic Nacional. They were playing against a lower league team in Colombia. They won 2-0. It was very comfortable. But what I noticed from that game is that the fans are so passionate, and it was so interesting to me because this game, it was a normal league game in Colombia, but it was scheduled at 5 o'clock on a Thursday. And you know, in England and many countries around the world, that scheduling just would never happen. You know, fans work, you know, people can't get to the stadium at 5 o'clock. So what you found is that at the start of the game, it was relatively empty. And as the game progressed, you saw more and more people starting to watch the game. And you just think, you know, generally speaking, you know, in England anyway, like if you miss the start of the game, you think, well, I'm not going to go. But as the game got on, more and more people came, and the atmosphere just got gradually better. And afterwards, I was ready, you know, for another experience because I knew that towards the end of my trip would be the Medellin Derby, and I thought, well, if the atmosphere was that good already for a Thursday 5 o'clock game, then, you know, how much better must it be when it's going to be a Saturday night under the floodlights, you know, 2 teams from the same city, 2 very successful teams. It can't be a bad game. So I spent the next kind of couple of weeks just traveling around Colombia. I went to Bogota, I went up north to Cartagena, and just kind of up towards the sort of jungle. And it was a crazy experience, but it was all building up to what was going to be this. And I would say now probably the craziest football experience I've ever experienced in my life. And the craziest thing with Colombian kind of culture and the country as a whole is that whenever you hear about Colombia in kind of Western media, you always hear about the bad things. You always hear about the drugs, the violence, you know, all of these kind of terrible things that generally make you not want to go there, right? When you hear about all these things, you know, not many people go, you know what, I want to go to Colombia. But the funny thing is about Colombia is that it's actually already been ranked by Forbes in one of their own articles as one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I think, I can't remember the exact year, it was 2018, 2019, but they were ranked 3rd in the world as the most beautiful country behind like New Zealand and Malaysia, places that people are more likely to go and visit. And it's insane because let's not dive into it too much, but obviously the violence, you know, it does exist. It is something to be wary about, and you do have to think about it. You do have to kind of think with a different perspective when you're walking around the streets in Colombia to what you probably do in your own town, your own city, that wherever you're from. But in saying that, from my own personal experience, I've met so many amazing people. You know, I was going on a walking tour around Medellin, and the amount of people that would just stop and say, "Hola, bienvenido," you know, and just say like, "Welcome," you know, you're in, the, you know, and tell you you're in the best city in the world. And I've done quite a few walking tours around the world. That has never happened. That kind of hospitality is insane. You know, you go to a restaurant, you go to a bar, and the people that are just welcoming you with opening arms. You know, it's slightly unrelated to the actual game itself, but it's something that people don't really know about Colombia, is that kind of hospitality. But also just kind of how proud they are as their own country. They're so proud to be from Colombia, and there's so many beautiful things, you know, from the beaches to the jungles to the general landscape across the country. There's so much that the country has to offer. I wish I could say that I'm being advertised to promote Colombia here, but I'm not. I'm way too small of a channel. But the truth is that whilst there's a lot of negatives to look at, there's also a lot of positives. And as a whole, traveling around Colombia, that's something that I really embraced and really welcomed. And, you know, kind of towards the end when I got to this game, going to the Medellin Derby, I kind of had that full-on perspective of the country, and speaking to locals, you really kind of understand why, at the start of this trip, when they're all saying you're in the best city in the world, you start to understand why they genuinely think that. Because generally there's so much that Colombia has to offer. But nonetheless, let's get straight back into talking about the game. So yeah, back to the football. And when I first went to Colombia, I teamed up with a company called Medellin Football Tour Groups. If you ever go to Colombia, you've got to go with these guys. They give you kind of a real insight of what to expect. I'll put their link in the description and everything. And so you join up with them. You get on a bus with them. They'll take you close to the stadium. And with that, you get given a chance to buy a t-shirt like this. I got this for like maybe £10, maybe $15. You get a few drinks, a few shots, and then you meet up with a bunch of people. I think the game that I went to with them was Atlético Nacional against Deportivo Pasto. Like I said earlier in the video, a team that is a kind of lower half side, and they give you kind of an insight of the players that you're going to be watching, the fans, what they're going to be like for this particular game, and they teach you a few chants and everything, and you really feel from that you're kind of immersed into the culture of it. You feel like you're a real fan. You kind of have a clearer idea of what to expect for this game, and like I say, you go with a bunch of people from all around the world who are also on this tour with you. And so yeah, from that I got a perfect idea of what to expect. And then fast forward a few weeks in the exact same stadium, because like I said, they share the same stadium, both Nacional and Independiente. But for this game, Independiente were the home team, so I knew I couldn't wear this. Otherwise, I don't know, I think my days would have been limited. So in this game, I decided not to wear this t-shirt. I'm wearing just a normal t-shirt. And we're in with the home fans. We walk in. It probably takes us about 45 minutes to get into the stadium. And this time I'm not with the tour group. I'm just with a few friends that I'd made kind of during my time in Colombia that also wanted to go to this game. So yeah, it takes 45 minutes to get into the stadium. And when we eventually get in, it's just a free-for-all. When you buy the ticket, you buy like a seat as you would any other game. But with this particular game, you know that you're not going to be sat in the seat that you're ordered, so it's just an absolute free-for-all, just trying to find some sort of space where you can with the Independiente fans, and it's just crazy. We walk into the stadium, you look behind you to the sort of top of the stadium, and sort of in the background you see the fireworks, which I'll put in the background. You hear fans sort of screaming and shouting as the game is about to start. It's unbelievable. It's like a party. It's like a festival atmosphere in there. You see people dancing, singing, crying, hugging, all sorts of emotions. And the game's only just started. That's the incredible thing about this, is that the fans, they don't know what's going to happen. Their team could play absolutely terribly, but on the flip side, they could produce a sort of surprise, historic win. And it's just a game that they'll never forget. And as for me, as a neutral, just kind of soaking it all up. Like I say, you see these fireworks, you see the flares going off, the pitch is just covered with smoke. It's so much. It's just everything that, as a football fan, you want to see, just kind of that outpouring of emotion being just kind of given to the players before the game starts, and the players, they kind of get an idea, if they didn't already know, just how much this means to the fans, and it's incredible. The overall atmosphere, and obviously this continues throughout the game, but from an initial standpoint, you just walk in the stadium and you just, something you very, very rarely see in Europe, having this kind of level of emotion, like I say, the fireworks in the background. And I'll show you kind of what the stadium looks like, because in the background you've got the mountains and everything all together. It's just truly spectacular. It's an incredible experience. But I knew at that moment that this game was going to be sick. It was going to be incredible. But yeah, no, absolutely incredible kind of setup for this game. And just to give a bit of an idea behind these two clubs, right? So we've got Athletic Nacional, who are considered probably like the Manchester United of Colombian football. They're the most successful. They've won 17 Colombian Premier League titles. They are one of two Colombian sides to have won the Copa Libertadores, and they won the most recent one in 2016. So, they are still very much so in that conversation of one of the best clubs in South America, let alone Colombia. They are, like I say, the most successful, probably the richest. And then they've kind of got the neighbouring club, Independiente. Like I said, they share the same stadium. But Independiente, much less successful. They've won the title, the Premier League in Colombia, 6 times, I believe, so they're still, within their own right, a successful team, but they have far less money. They're very much so considered the working class club, whereas this team right here, Nacional, considered the kind of more affluent side, the side with more money. And if you didn't already know, in the 70s and 80s, were formerly owned by Pablo Escobar. And that in its own is an interesting conversation because, fans to this day tried to kind of hide that fact. They tried to ignore, the fact that he brought so much success to that club because they did win a Copa Libertadores in the 80s as well. And it's interesting because you walk around the streets of Medellin and no one wants to talk about him. It's interesting because you have a very small select group of people who are proud of what he did, of the money that he brought in, but the vast majority, understandably, are ashamed of the kind of violence and the drugs, just kind of everything they've brought. And so whilst they are the most successful club, Nacional, there's a huge debate in the country, especially in the city of Medellin, about, are they actually that successful because of him being involved with the club? It's a super interesting debate, and that means a lot of the times when they play against each other, Nacional win because of the kind of financial backing that they've always had. And even to this day, whilst Independiente are playing catch up, they're still quite a few paces behind Nacional. We went into the stadium and you see all these kind of fireworks. There was a real party atmosphere, which was amazing, and as you walk in, you kind of with all the fans, and you see that, you start to realise that the game, whilst the result is important, it's not that important. What's more important is having a good time, enjoying yourself, singing, dancing, really making the most of that experience. And we sit down in our seat, we eventually find somewhere to sit down, and we're right near the front, and we realise, a couple of us, that actually it's better to be towards the top of the stadium so you can kind of look down. And like I said earlier, with the stadium, you've got this kind of backdrop, of the mountains, of everything outside, so to be able to kind of enjoy that whilst also watching the game was spectacular. So what we were doing is we decided we'll go up to the top and we'll start talking to some of the locals, and that's what we did. We went up to the top and they were introducing us to some of the songs, teaching us something about it, and teaching us some of the lyrics. And also you saw some kind of interesting stuff. You see some people snorting some things that maybe they shouldn't be snorting in a football stadium, and you also think how they've been able to get that into the ground without anyone noticing. And basically the game goes on, and my favourite thing that's ever happened in a football stadium, so you see it a lot whenever you look online about football stadiums. You see these big banners going off, and at the start of the second half, it was still 0-0 at this point. Independiente, they have this massive banner going over the entire stand, and obviously we're underneath it. And whilst I'm talking, I'll put a video clip of this, just to give you an idea. I don't know why, I felt like a kid again. I don't know why. It was just such a fun experience. Something so simple, putting a banner over all of us in that stand. After a load of flares were set off to set off the second half. Anyway, the game itself wasn't that spectacular. We're watching the game, it's 0-0, and a bunch of the guys that I went with, 10 minutes before the end of the game, they said, okay, can we leave because the traffic's going to be bad, that kind of story. And me being who I am, I was like, no, I'm not leaving, you guys can leave, but I'm going to stay here, even if it's on my own. And so everyone said, okay, let's stay, because it makes more sense to kind of be together. And the best thing that ever happened at a football game happened maybe 4 or 5 minutes before the end of the game. Independiente, the home team, they scored a winning goal, and it was crazy. I started to feel the stadium starting to shake, the seat that I was kind of in, I'm hugging people, and then, I'm in a completely different part of the stadium that I was in when, before they scored. I don't even know where I've gone. I just feel myself moving across, I'm seeing grown men cry. Like I said earlier in the video, this is a game at the start of the season. You see flares going off again, new songs being chanted, and you're just seeing strangers hugging each other. It was an absolutely beautiful experience. But it was so worth telling my friends, actually, let's stay till the end of the game, let's see what happens. And my word, it was so worth it, because the experience that we had from it was like anything else. I've never experienced anything like it. And beautiful game. And that brings to an end this video, guys. It's a bit of a different one, just telling you a story of me going to Colombia, but let me know in the comments section down below. Did it match up to what you expected about Colombia football? Was it different? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. And as you guys know, I'm based in Mexico City right now, so if there's any video ideas that you would love for me to bring to you, whether it's in Mexico or other Latin, South American countries, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So guys, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe, as I said before, and yeah, peace out, guys.